especially on social media. Even its name is an example of that. So what messages has IS been deploying ahead of this offensive? Charles Winter from the International Centre for the Study of Radicalisation and Political Violence, which is based at King's College London, has been monitoring them, and he joins me now. Charles, good evening.
Good evening.
What's IS been saying?
Well, it's actually been fairly interesting today, quite different to what we've seen in past military offensives against IS, for example, Fallujah and also Manbij in Syria. What we're seeing with Mosul is it's actually engaging with the coalition narrative and it's rejecting it entirely. Now, this may seem like a logical thing for it to do, but it's a very, very high-risk strategy. And if it goes too far, then it will leave a lot of its supporters, a lot of those who aren't fully committed to it but are partially committed to it, thinking that they've been duped. And I think IS and the people running its propaganda machine are really kind of struggling to know what to do about this, because Mosul is an incredibly important city to the group. It's an incredibly important part of its insurgency, and without it, it will be severely degraded in Iraq.
Are they warning about retaliation? Are they threatening the civilian population if they cooperate with the forces coming into the city, or indeed if they try to flee?
Well, that kind of thing's been happening for a few months now. Many of the videos to come out from the media team in Mosul, the Nineveh province media office, have been uniquely revolving around really abhorrent, disgusting violence, to be quite frank. And it's all about creating this level of terror, scaring people and saying that, yes, this is a binary world and you're either with IS or you're against us, and there's no middle ground.
Can they use some of the fears that will exist, for example, among the Sunni population of the city, that some of those who are supposedly coming to liberate them are Shia militias who've been involved in sectarian violence in Iraq in the past?
Absolutely. I think that one of the key things about IS propaganda is that we often think it just exists online, but I would actually say it's a lot more important offline. It's being used to essentially be part of IS's totalitarian control of the areas that it takes into its caliphate, its so-called caliphate. And the messages that it sends out offline aren't necessarily the same as those that we see online. But what we do know is that there are media kiosks, plenty of them, in town squares, on street corners, which blare out the IS radio station 24 hours a day, but also show on wide screens, projectors sometimes, propaganda. And they constantly channel this narrative, which IS has been pumping into its civilian population for a very long time now. And of course, the vast majority of people probably don't believe it in the slightest, but there will be a good number of people who are very rightly concerned about the sectarian reprisals that took place in places like Tikrit.
It's interesting, just as we're speaking tonight, BBC Monitoring is reporting that IS has issued a video through its own news agency this evening, which appears to depict a bustling city with interviews on the streets and in markets with civilians who all say it's business as usual there. We'll see. Charlie Winter from the International Centre for the Study of Radicalisation and Political Violence at King's College in London. Thank you very much. There are